Methanol, a deadly food fraud ingredient. It seems that almost every week there is a new report of people dying after consuming illicit alcohol. Just last month, 8 people died and 40 people were otherwise affected by methanol poisoning linked to the consumption of commercial artisanal beverages in Ecuador. Clandestinely produced bamba drink containing methanol caused the death of 22 people in Peru. And a counterfeit version of a branded beverage containing methanol also caused the deaths of 54 people, also in Peru. So that's a pretty big death toll just for October. It's the methanol in illicit and fake drinks that turns them deadly. But the source of the methanol is actually a bit of a mystery in these food fraud affected drinks. Methanol and ethanol both belong to the class of chemical compounds known as alcohols. Ethanol, also known as ethyl alcohol, is naturally present in beer, wine, and spirit drinks and is safe or safe-ish to consume in small quantities. Methanol is not safe to consume and causes poisoning and death. Ethanol, as well as being an important component of beverages, is the main component of industrial alcohol, which is used as a gasoline additive and as an industrial solvent and ingredient in the manufacture of drugs, plastics, lacquers, cleaning products, and cosmetics. It's manufactured by fermenting plant materials such as sugarcane, sugar beet, and corn. Methanol, or methyl alcohol, produces highly toxic formaldehyde and formic acid when metabolized in the human liver, and that causes convulsions, stupor, coma, and death when you drink methanol. Unlike ethanol, methanol can be made by fermentation, but for industrial uses it is more... I completely misread that. Like ethanol, methanol can be used by fermentation, but for industrial uses it's more often made by chemically combining carbon monoxide and hydrogen. When methanol is produced by fermentation, the raw materials are cellulose-containing plant materials like wood, whereas for ethanol fermentation, you would use carbohydrate-containing plants to make ethanol. Methanol is an important building block for many commercially important compounds such as dyes, resins, and pharmaceuticals. It's also used for rendering industrial ethanol unfit for consumption in a process called denaturing. Confusingly, in some countries, ethanol is marketed as methylated spirits for use as a household cleaner, cooking fuel, or solvent. How does methanol get into fake and illicit liquor? When people are poisoned or killed by methanol-containing beverages, it's usually assumed that the methanol was added deliberately by the person who manufactured the beverage, but that assumption is probably not right. It's important to remember that food fraud perpetrators and makers of clandestine or bootleg liquor do not want to get caught. If people become violently ill or die after consuming their products, they run a much higher risk of getting caught. This means that the presence of methanol in illicit or counterfeit liquor is almost certainly unintentional. Methanol can get into beverages in 4 ways. 1. The beverage maker thinks they are adding safe ethyl alcohol to their product, but accidentally adds not safe methyl alcohol after being confused by the name or label. 2. The beverage maker adds industrial methanol, not realizing that it is different to industrial ethanol. 3. The beverage maker uses industrial ethanol, which has been denatured with methanol to make the beverage. Or 4, and this is the surprising one, poorly controlled fermentation conditions produce methanol while the beverage is being fermented. Methanol can occur in the production of traditionally fermented beverages when the fermentation is contaminated by microorganisms that break down celluloses and pectins, including yeast, fungi, and bacteria. Scientists who investigated this issue in 2016 concluded that poorly controlled fermentations were a more likely source of methanol in traditionally fermented illicit beverages than deliberate addition of methanol. They assessed a range of traditional beverages and found agave drinks, arak, plum wine, grape wine, cachaca, and kolai drinks to be vulnerable to methanol contamination. In short, People who make illicit beverages, either bootleg liquors or counterfeit versions of premium brands, are perpetrating food fraud. Food fraud perpetrators try to avoid causing poisoning and death, as this increases their chance of being caught. Perpetrators who add industrial alcohol products to illicit beverages can accidentally contaminate their products with methanol by mistaking pure methanol for pure ethanol, or by using ethanol that has been denatured with methanol. Methanol can occur naturally during fermentation of alcoholic drinks. Too much methanol in a beverage leads to the poisoning of consumers. And as always, I've included the sources in the email.